Hello and welcome back to another episode for Project Seed Money. My name is Sharissa Bradley and I am joined today with Ann Charles. Thank you so much for being here with us and just sharing a little bit of time with me today.
It's great to be here. I can't wait to talk about Project Seed and everything having to do with writing and women publishing and all that good stuff.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. I just want to get right into it and ask, have you always wanted to be an author?
No, I did not. And it's hard. So it's like, okay, so I had many dreams, growing up, different things. I always liked to read. I did, but I never imagined I'd be the one putting the words on the page. And I tried all kinds of stuff. I liked it. One of the things that many of my fans know, one of my young dreams was to be a camel jockey. And that's because I read a lot of romances, the Little White Harlequin book romances. And it seems like there were always these over in the desert and these English women and with these romantic leads, that were, I don't know from where, somewhere in the desert over there. So it just seemed like that'd be really cool to be this thing. And I even painted a picture of that in ninth grade art when he said, I want you guys to paint pictures of what you want to do in life. And a really good friend, she put her with a briefcase because she was going to be a social worker, and she is. And I did me on a camel. Because I thought this is what I really want to do. Can't do it. Females, I don't think there are female camel jockeys. But anyway, I went from that to flight attendant because of the travel. Archaeology sounded so much fun because I loved history and Indiana Jones. But I thought there's a lot of writing in archaeology, and I don't think I want to do all that much writing. I know, right? So yeah, I just really bounced around. I did some paralegal stuff, thinking maybe I'll go up to I'll be a lawyer eventually. I just was all over, and I attended like four different universities, and each one made me take English 101 over because nobody's English is as good as the previous university, yeah, or is better than the previous university's English. And so, oh, by the fourth time, I thought, okay, universe, I'll focus on English. Now, what am I going to do? And I was reading a lot of books still, romance at the time, quite a bit. And they never really finished the way I wanted them to. I wanted more, of an ending. So one day I just thought, well, if you don't like it, write your own book and write your own ending so you're satisfied. I also read a lot of horror, Stephen King, Westerns, all across the board. I was all over the place. So I started with romance thinking I'm going to write a romance book. I'm going to write what I like. And I did. I wrote it all by hand and I finished it. And I even tried to submit it. And Harlequin was very nice and said, you show potential, but no thanks. Keep trying. And I believed him. So I kept going. And I got a job as a tech writer in the meantime.
Okay.
And that helped me with, again, the universe saying, work on your writing skills, get better. So it all just kind of came together with me writing stories.
That's so cool. And it almost sounds like all these things that you did became almost like research because I bet they show up in ways in your books. I bet all the skills that you learned from all those places do show up in ways. So it feels to me like, oh, these were all research elements leading you up to being a writer. I wonder then, what was the catalyst for going from like stories and writing and doing these handwritten things to then actually having published works in the world?
So I followed the old try to get an agent, and I landed an agent, and then try to go into the big houses. And this was in the I was also I finished college in 2000. I did the 10-year program of a 4-year degree because I bounced around so much. I finished and I was tech writing and then I was married and having kids. So I was doing all these things, but still at night on my own, writing books, trying and working. I had a critique group trying to get better. And it was in the late 2000, before 2010, 2009, 2000. I had an agent. We were submitting to publishing houses. But my voice, I do a lot of mixed genre just because I've always loved that in movies and stuff, and I'm a very visual learner. So I kept trying and with these mixed genre stories. And the publishers back then were like, we don't do mixed. You need to do like 70% romance, 30% of, this action adventure stuff you're throwing in, but I was doing more 50-50, 60-40, and I just could not find a home for these stories. And we almost did with, it was Avon, I think, or Mira back in 2009, 2010. But then I got rejected by marketing because I was Midwest and the story was set in the Midwest and they thought there wouldn't be a big enough market. So they rejected me after months of working with editors. And I was pretty heartbroken. But that was at the time, beginning of 2011. I had just won some national awards for the story that got rejected. And it was, Kindle Unlimited was a brand new thing they were trying to get authors to do. It just happened at the right time. And I put that out there, created a small publishing and put it out under that umbrella. And we started selling right away. There wasn't as many people in KU, of course. It was new. So we were getting a lot of traction right off the bat. And it just blew up from that. And that was my Deadwood mystery series, which I have 14 books in that series now. So it was the start of that. And then I put out the first in my Jackrabbit series a couple years later, and then Dig Site came, and then Undertaker. So I just kept building. And by 2014, I was able to, actually 2013, I quit the day job and I went full-time writing. And my husband's was a stay-home dad, so that was big for us. We had to make it off writing, and that alone. And we've been there ever since, just raised two kids, lived off this income. My husband helps write one of the series. We co-write a series now, the Undertaker series. So we're really in it together. I don't mind, doing all the interviews and talking and running my mouth all the time. So I'm more out there.
That's perfect. You have to have balance in that. There's got to be like the person who can go and do the front things and the person who can handle the backside of the management. So that's perfect. It sounds like a really good union. I wonder then, did you maintain your press that you created, your imprint, and then maintained self-publishing?
I did not. We had it for a couple years, and we had other authors under that imprint that were signing on. And I realized at one point that I can't do both. I can't be a publisher and a good one, and I can't be an author, a good one. There's just too much when you're working with all that. And I really wanted to write. I wanted to tell the stories. So I left the small press. I had a contract so I could take my books with me. That's very important if you're going to do that. Set it up so you can take what you did with you and left everything else for the partner to take over. And just went out on my own. And that was 2014, 2015, right in there. As of 2015, I think I was running solo. And it was fun working with authors, but I just knew I can't keep spreading myself this thin. Plus, I had young kids and I wanted to be there for them. They were beyond just, sitting and playing at that stage. They were starting to really get involved with stuff at school. So I had to shift some things.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds very cool and very important and so interesting the way that your path led you to now being full-time and doing this for yourself and it grew. It didn't obviously start that way. So I think that that's inspiring for listeners because to hear the journey all the way through, it isn't like, okay, now we're at this point and we were able to support ourselves that, you built up to that top of the pyramid and now you're at that point and you also had to know yourself
Right.
enough to see like no, that's not the way that things are going to work the way that I want them to be. So I feel like you even had to kind of have a little bit of self-development in that process. And
Very much so. Yeah. Especially being a mom. I did not want to reach the time when they were gone off on their own and I was going to be full of the regrets because writing is a child of its own. It takes up a lot of energy, a lot of time, and it'll take up everything I give it and then some. So I had to start putting boundaries on things and saying, I wish I could write 4 books a year, but I can't because I write longer books. My books are like 120, 130,000 word books. So they're longer stories and they take me 4 to 5 months to write and put out. So I had to stop trying to meet this demand of put a book out every other month and accept that I just can't. I'm going to have to accept that, we won't make as much money maybe as some of these authors that can put out a lot faster, but my family is important and it's good to put the time in there and there's extreme value there, and just kind of work that out along the way.
Yes, I love that. And it sounds like you have really good values and integrity when it comes to your family setting. And I think that that's really beautiful because, I mean, balance is kind of it isn't really real, right? Like we can't
Right.
exactly perfectly balance all of these things, but I like the way that you said you put the boundaries around your time so that you can make sure that you're living within with what you're trying to do for yourself and for your family. And I think that's so beautiful. I wonder through this process of publishing books, maybe from the beginning to now where you are now, did you ever face self-doubt while you were in the writing process before the books were coming out?
Always, often, every book, still, I go through this thing where like right now, I'm getting ready to start the seventh book in the Jackrabbit series. And so I always reread the series, and it's getting harder because there's a lot more books each time. But I reread, and then I go through this self-doubt time when I tell my husband, I don't know who wrote these books. Where did I come up with this stuff? I don't know if I can do this again. This seems like it's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to do it. And he'll remind me, you do this every time. You have to go through the doubt, you know, swamp, if you will, and trudge through it and make it to the other side and then start again. And the way to fix that, the way to get out of that is to start writing and just put up with crap being chapter one, maybe, but keep going and building and then go back and fix. But yes, there are so many doubts, and hats off to those authors who just rush headlong without them. But I am always suffering from the weight of the doubt demon on my shoulder.
Well, you seem to be able to get through it. You seem to be able to experience it and then be able to still publish. So I wonder, have you developed some tools? It sounds like you have an amazing partner who helps you to remind you, and you know I have to take action to get out of it. But are there ways that you kind of help yourself or any like practices that you've developed that kind of keep you on track?
I spend a lot of time. I have a more of a relationship marketing strategy when it comes to marketing. I get a lot of energy from readers, not just them saying, "Oh, you're my favorite author, you're the best." That's wonderful. I love that and I appreciate that. That's a very huge honor if someone says you're their favorite author, cuz that's big. There's a lot of authors out there. But there is some of that energy that will keep me going when I'm full of doubts that, hey, there's people out there that are waiting excitedly for the next one in the series. And it's your job to get that done and get it to them. And then I'll have the feeling of sometimes like when a book just goes out of, oh my gosh, we got to do it again. I mean, I just published my 39th book. I'm going on 40. And these are, like I said, most of them are bigger books and it takes a lot. And it always feels like, I'm looking up at another mountain going, okay, I've got to figure out how to climb this mountain and get back down again, you know? And I did a workshop once about publishing is like mountain climbing, and you get to the top, the summit, and you're only halfway done. And the hardest part is to come, which is the summit is you wrote the end of your rough draft or first draft. Then coming back down is the editing and editing and editing, and then the marketing and promo and all the work that goes into that. So it's, up one way is hard, back down is hard. And sometimes that gets weary. But then again, like I said, I look at people writing to me. I don't look at reviews because that can really mess with my brain. But I go to people that send me private emails and talk about, I read your book to my mom, and she's in the hospital and it's making her laugh. And I thank you for that. And that keeps me going. It gives me the fuel I need to keep pushing through, like I said, the swamp of doubts.
That's so beautiful. And it sounds like it is working because you 39 books, that is absolutely incredible. And it's only been, I mean, I'm trying to do the math, but I think like 12 years since you've been actively doing this as
Let
a,
me think.
a
So the
career.
first one was published January 2011. That was Nearly Departed. So
14
eek.
years.
Yeah, we're at 14. So it's and luckily I started a little younger, not young, but I was in my 30s. So I've spent my 40s being a full-time author and now I'm into my 50s and I'm learning things as I go about again myself and things changed as I changed, and grew and got older and my body changed and my brain changed. So it's really fun to see how things are shifting now in my 50s, and what comes next. And I long ago said, because my Deadwood mystery series has always been my big marquee, my bestseller, and it still is. And my husband once said in my 40s, what makes you think that will always be your biggest seller? something else might come along. And at the time I thought, what are you talking about? It will always be this. But now I feel like, I wonder what's to come in the future as I keep going. Who knows? I just put the third out in my Dig Site mystery series, which is archaeology with supernatural and mystery and some romance all thrown together, a lot of action, adventure. And it's a really hard series because it's all about the Maya and dig sites in the Maya. And I make them all up as I go. I create a new dig site, I research history, I come up with a history for the site and the people that once lived there. And then I build that whole world. And they're not as, widely raved about yet, but the fans of it now with the third coming out are loving it and it's growing. So then I think, well, maybe this is going to be more of my future. I don't know.
I love that place of curiosity because I feel like it is the fastest way to get out of the feeling of like self-doubt and worry and all of these things is to step back and get into that place of what is happening, what is going to come and that place of curiosity. So I think that's really inspiring that it maybe took the decade to get to the place of being able to step back and be curious about what's coming, but that inspires me as a writer in my 30s, right? And as a person doing this in my 30s, that maybe there, even with the self-doubt, comes a little bit more like curiosity.
Right, right. Yeah, you just keep growing and it's hard to explain until you've started living it as a writer how your writing will change. And at the beginning I thought, no, it'll, I'll get better, I hope, but it won't really change, but it is, but it's very subtle. It's just in how I feel about the stories and how things, evolve. Funny, when I started, I had one of my older characters, not older, it was Aunt, the aunt to the one in my Deadwood series, Violet Parker's aunt. She's 55-ish, 56. I'm getting there. So now I relate to when I read back through, I feel for the aunt a lot because I'm like, well, so and so needs to respect you more for that, or just different things. So since I've aged along, different characters are interesting. And in the Jack Reader series I'm writing, there's one of the women, she's I think 55 or 56, and she just married a guy that's about 69. And they make a great couple, but I thought, oh wow, I don't know if I were to marry someone that's six, how would I feel? And so I have to go through and and realize, oh, you're older too, remember? So you don't really want a 30-year-old anymore. You want this age now. So yeah, it's really fun with these characters and how I'm relating differently as I age with each of them.
That is so cool. And what a cool experience to have. And again, it reminds me when you're saying like the dig series, like all the way back at the beginning of the interview where you thought archaeology would be like a really interesting place to
Right.
go and study. And you have given yourself the ability to take all these different worlds and all these different places based on your interests that were naturally there
Right.
to begin with.
I think that's one of the best parts of this career is if there's something that interests you, always has, but there was no money in it for whatever reason, or you didn't want to go to college for this. As a writer, you can create a character that knows, or, is one of whatever career it is, and you can get in it enough to learn it and use it, but then you can step away and you're not challenged. Yeah. I mean, you do. One of the hard parts of the Dig Site series is that I have readers that are anthropologists and archaeologists. So I have to do it well. I can't, just kind of throw it together and say that's close enough because readers are so smart and they will tell you you're wrong. You did it wrong. That's not true. And time will change. So, yes, technology shifts and they'll be accepting of that. But if you do it wrong, then they'll let you know and it can hurt your book. I mean, you want it to be believable for all, including those in the field. So, have fun, experiment, but make sure you do your history and research and interview people that are doing that so you get an idea of what it's really like.
That's so cool though, because it's like a bonus opportunity to explore things. Like I'm like that. I like knowing all these different kinds of things and doing all these different kinds of jobs. And it just adds to it. I think that that builds
Right.
so much. So I just wonder if
Right.
you can tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find all of your books.
The easiest is anncharles.com, and it's just anncharles.com. There's no E after in Anne. And you can go there and go to the book site and it'll list them all. And then I have links to the different like Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And, you can go there and read reviews and you can see, what others think. I'm on Goodreads too, if you're interested in going there. I don't go to Goodreads. I think it's a reader place, not an author place. So I just stay out of that. But yeah, start with that. But I'm on social media all over. I have a YouTube page that I'm working on building and just interacting with people more through talking and that kind of stuff. So I'm all over out there. If you just type in my name, Ann Charles author, it'll pull up a lot of stuff. So yeah, it's easy to I'm easy to find.
That's perfect. And I will make sure to have all the links in the description as well, because I do want to make it easy for everyone to find you. I just have one last question for you. And I wonder if you can share a little message to help inspire my audience. They're female authors, they're on the fence. They need that little boost of encouragement to just keep going. And I wonder if you can just kind of give them one last piece of advice.
So if it feels hard, if this feels overwhelming, if you feel like your craft of storytelling is not good enough, if you feel like you're not doing enough marketing or you're too shy to do a lot of the marketing and you're not comfortable, just keep going. Find what works for you. Keep putting words on the page and trying to get better. Keep trying different marketing ways. If you don't like putting your face out there, just run ads and learn all about that. Just keep going. Don't give up because it is hard. People think it's a get rich quick, type of job, and it's really not. But it's extremely rewarding if you go into it that you want to help people maybe get through painful times in their life or feel like they can relate. This is a wonderful job, career to have. So perseverance is key.
Thank you so much, Anne. And thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's fun. And I really wish all the best for all of those listening. And you can overcome the obstacles. Just don't give up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode for Project Seed Money. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I will see you with another interview next week. Bye.